Now that we've investigated a few data types and how to print them and how to access any particular member of, let's say, a string, we could access any of these members, right, by using an index, knowing that index 0 is the first one, all the way up to the end here. We know that if we use an index number that is beyond the scope of the string, we will get an error. Good, so that was a quick review of what we did last time. So now, as promised, what we're going to look at is what about if we wanted to use the variables at runtime? That is, while the program is running, we would like the program to prompt us to enter a value for any of these variables that we would use. So let's go ahead and start from scratch right here. So let me clean it up. Let's write a program that will ask you for your first name and last name. So we know that to handle that, you need a data type string. So how do you make a variable accept a value that comes out of the keyboard, right? So since we're going to make it interactive. So the way to do it is go ahead and create the variable that you need. So first, underscore name. So this will be the variable name that we want. And we're going to use a special function to assign a value to this. Okay? So we could say something like this, input. Okay? Now, if I run this by itself, watch this. Notice I have a blank screen here, and I'm going to type Drew, and the program ends. So what it has done, it allowed me to actually input a value and assign a value to first name. Now, can we prove that? Can we prove actually that first name was assigned whatever you typed on the keyboard? Well, let's go ahead and print it. And let's go ahead and do it again. And let's go ahead and run this thing. And let's go ahead and type Drew, and let's see if we get Drew. Indeed, it did. Okay, so simply by using the function input allows you now to assign a value to first name right here, notice the green, while the program is running. We can make this a little more interesting. This input function can also take an argument as a message that you would want to display on the screen. Remember when I did this? Watch this again. Notice we really don't know what's going on. We just got a blank screen. If this is an interactive program, unless you knew specifically that you were supposed to enter at this stage a first name right here. Oops, typed it in the wrong place right here. You gotta watch where your prompt is. By the way, how do you know this is still running? Notice here I've got a red square. Okay, this is important. So this is, or right here, this is telling me the program is still running. Okay, so it hasn't ended. This is what we're doing is runtime input, right? So let me type Henry here and hit enter, and there you go. Now notice the red square is gone. We're back to the green arrow, which means the program has ended. And we have the option to rerun the program. So I can rerun it again from here. Jackie, and there you have it. Now, we'd like to make this program, this interactive program, a little more user-friendly. So what we will do, inside the input, you're going to put a string literal that will display to show the user what they're supposed to be doing at that moment. So maybe something like this, enter the first name. Now notice that I am putting all of this between quotes. It's a string literal that will print out. Why am I saying string literal and not a string variable? That's because this string is not associated to any variable. It will simply print out to the screen. I'm leaving a little space here because the actual input will be right next to it. We don't want it to be attached to it. So let's see what happens. Let's run this thing again. Notice now when I click in this pane here where the prompt, the blinking prompt is. It's one space over, but we have a message that says enter the first name. So now we can go ahead and enter a name, and there you got it. Okay, so now what if we, let me go ahead and remove the print now. We have one for the first name. Let's go ahead and do one for the last name. So last name. And then we're going to do an input. Enter the last name. So we're going to follow the same pattern. So we have these two. Now we're going to have to print the first name and last name. So maybe something like this, print. And I'm going to show you a couple things. I'm going to put a string literal that explains what we're looking at. Full name. Put a comma. And let me put a space here. So we're going to combine in the same print statement. I'm going to put 3 arguments to the function print, and it will print them in that order. So full name is a string literal, first name, comma, and I'm going to put a space between them. If you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with the first name and last name concatenated or attached to each other. So last name. Let's see how this works. Now this isn't the only way to do this, but it's really a nifty little option on how to print the whole thing. So let's go ahead and do Frank. And last name, let's put Practa here. Let's see what happens. Full name, Frank Practa. Okay. Now this is one way. You could do a whole bunch of things. You could put a /t here. So that gives you, that's an escape character. That will give you a tab. Let's go ahead and try it out again. And let's do Henry Ford. And notice it pushes the actual name and that one a little bit further. Okay. Now let's say we didn't do this, right? So let's go ahead and take it out and take out the comma. See what happens here. And George Patton. So, but it did leave one space. That's good. All right. So we didn't really need the 2 quotes. But if you want to, you can. Okay. So, but at least we know this /t here gave us this tab right here and pushed it out away from us. Okay. So we could see that each argument has its own space. So have I not done the /t? Oops. Let's go ahead and remove it. Then each one of them will have its own space. Okay. And let's go ahead and do Henry Ford again. Okay, that works just fine. But in case you want to do it a little fancy, that's one way to do it. Another way to do this is to put all of this in a message. So instead of printing it here and we want to format it, then we would type a message here. But notice that message, we get a little squiggly line here. It's undefined. We need to actually assign it a value. So prior to printing, that's where you need to do it. Message equals, and now we can concatenate these 2 strings with a message. Full name. Now we could put a /t here, plus first name, plus a single space. Now you need to do this, otherwise it will be a concatenation, and then plus a last name. Now let's see how this works. And let's put Henry Ford again. And there you have it. Now, had we not, this time, done the spacing between them, watch what happens. Bob Franks. Okay. Notice that the 2 words will be attached. So in this case, indeed, you definitely need 2 quotes here, plus, and then put a little space in between them, a single empty character. Okay. Had you not done a /t or a space, for example, this isn't good enough. then if you had done this, then it will be attached to it. So you have to be really careful there. All right, so play with this so you could get a feel how to do an input-output, but this time the input is coming in from the keyboard. And I will see you again for the next lesson.